I went back home and I cried myself to sleep. I didn't see my role model. And that was it. I went back to school and back to the garbage dumps. And I just failed my way through elementary. High school was even worse.
What were some things you did? Like, what was the worst prank you ever did?
Michael Jordan at the three-point line puts it up. It's good. Oh boy, I'm in the middle of class right now. Hello, this is Alexi calling.
Yes?
You call car service?
What would you say is your favorite joke?
And I walk in, and without exaggerating, the kids ripped up pieces of paper and followed me around class and just threw it up. You know, I'm a substitute. Green light, do what you want. And they were jumping over desks, and I'm like, this is why I didn't want to come. I was just failure everywhere. Like anything I touched just turned into applesauce, and I got kicked out of everywhere. Every camp I went to, every school in Brooklyn kicked me out.
Jewish and joyful, helping you live a better and happier life. Hi everybody, it's great to be here. Jewish and Joyful Podcast, special Purim episode. In this week's special Purim episode, I'm joined by Rabbi Eli Scheller. Rabbi Eli Scheller is known throughout the world as an incredible Rebbe storyteller. He's inspired thousands of kids. Rabbi Scheller was born in Brooklyn and just didn't feel connected to Yiddishkeit. And then he went to Israel and his life changed. You'll hear about that. And now he's an incredible Rebbe, a Rebbe to thousands of kids worldwide. They listen to his Torah thoughts and his amazing, incredible stories and his jokes. And we have a lot of incredible stuff coming up in this week's episode. You have to remember to always be happy, especially now during these times. You have to be Jewish and joyful. And you're going to hear his journey. And you're going to hear about him. And of course, one time. That's what he's known as, right? One time. So I hope you'll enjoy this episode. We're going to be talking about Parshat Aloud, the weekly Torah publication. You can receive Torah thought stories and inspirational weekly Barsha. How incredible is that? Torah thought stories and inspirational weekly Barsha. You could email parshatknowledge@gmail.com, or you can visit parshatknowledge.com. So go right now, email parshatknowledge@gmail.com, say hi, I want to subscribe. We'll get delivered to you every week by Hashem. And we'll tell you about Ohr Olam Mishna Berurah, a revolutionary project that's changing the world. It's a Hebrew Mishna Berurah. Or we're going to talk more about that later in the episode, so stay tuned. There's a special Adar and Purim spirit in here, so very excited for that. It's my great honor and privilege. I'm very excited to introduce to you the Jewish and Joyful special Purim episode.
Shalom Aleichem, Rabbi Scheller. It's a great honor to have you here.
Oh, so glad to be here. Jewish and joyful.
What was your childhood like? Where did you grow up?
So I grew up actually in Brooklyn.
Where in Brooklyn?
I grew up on East 3rd, OMP.
Flatbush.
Flatbush, yeah.
Did you ever wonder why it's called Flatbush?
You know what? I never thought about that. Yeah, what's Pshat?
I don't know.
Right, yeah, I don't know. I never thought about that one. Yeah, I grew up in Flatbush and went to yeshivas over there, went to Mir Yeshiva. I got bounced around a little bit, went from one yeshiva to the next. I was too good for the yeshivas. I threw them out, you know, they weren't good enough for me, so
Did you ever envision yourself as a Rebbe?
Yes and no. On one hand, no. I just wanted to be a basketball player in the NBA and at one point singer, but never as a Rebbe. But on the other hand, because no Rebbe really connected to me and no one was really able to engage me, in the back of my head, I said, you know what? One day I'm going to do it right, and I'm going to do it in a way that it should be done. So I never really thought of that, but years later, when Hashem guided me to teach kids, it brought it back to me. I said, that's where I get my passion from. Because as a kid, I never really got anything in the classroom, and then became my mission to make sure every kid will understand. Speak in a way that kids get what I'm saying and show them the joy of being Jewish. Because as a kid, it never spoke to me. You know, like Teach me about Michael Jordan. That's what I want to hear about.
Did you have a story with one of the basketball players?
Yeah, with Michael Jordan. Story was one time, I was in Brooklyn and I just loved basketball. I would go watch the Schwarzes play in Avenue P Park on East 4th Street. Sometimes I would play with them. I just loved basketball. And in my day, everyone spoke about Michael Jordan. And I just loved Michael Jordan. I didn't have a television at home, but I had basketball cards that my friends traded. So I saw Michael Jordan. And in school, I was horrible. I was getting kicked out of class and sent home, and my tests were like 30s and 40s. So one day, my father says, "If you want, would you want to see Michael Jordan play live?" I said, "Absolutely." He said, "Okay, he's playing in Madison Square Gardens in March. I'll take you to the game." I said, "Sign me up, Dad." He said, "1 second. If you get a 90 on every test for 6 months," I said, "Game, let's do it."
Yeah.
He said, "Don't you want to think about it a little bit? Because you never get a 90 yet." I said, "I'm going to the game." So I go to class and I'm trying to focus, but I can't. As soon as the Rebbe starts talking, Michael Jordan at the 3-point line puts it up. It's good. Oh boy, I'm in the middle of class right now. And I just couldn't focus, but I wanted to go to that game. So after school, I would call up the best kids in the class and say, "Tell me, what did Rebbe do today? Give me a summary." And before the test, I would ask the kids what's going to be on the test. And then eventually I was able to get 90s on my test until finally March 8th, 1998, I put on my favorite Michael Jordan t-shirt. My bed was surrounded by Michael Jordan pictures. That was like my role model. So my father takes me to the game and we got tickets from outside and I go into the stadium and I give my tickets and the guy says, "Hey, get back here, sir." I said, "What's the matter?" He says, "Sir, get back here. Your tickets are fake." I said, "What?" He said, "Tickets for this game was sold out 6 months ago. You got fake tickets." I said, "Oh my goodness." My father felt terrible. He said, "I'll take you to a restaurant. Let's watch the game in a restaurant." I said, "No, I wanted to see Michael Jordan. I just want to go back home." And I went back home and I cried myself to sleep. I didn't see my role model. And that was it. I went back to school and back to the garbage dumps. And I just failed my way through elementary. High school was even worse. Until I went to the Holy Land, to Israel. And then I had a breakthrough in the middle of my Israel first year. And then I just started going up from there. And Baruch Hashem, I'm still trying to go up.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Could you just share with us about what you do?
Yeah, so that is my background, just a regular kid from Brooklyn that was never excited about Yiddishkeit. And then when I went to Israel, something opened up inside of me where deep down, I always felt great. And I think every Jew shares that, is deep down, we have this sense of greatness. But sometimes it comes out in our brand new Lexus, but that's not really where it's at. Inside, we feel great. And I just wasn't achieving that. Like no one around me saw that. But then I realized that I have to make some moves and I have to start growing. And when I was 19, so up till 19, I was just failure everywhere. Like anything I touched just turned into applesauce. And I got kicked out of everywhere. Every camp I went to, every school in Brooklyn kicked me out.
What were some things you did? Like, what was the worst prank you ever did?
The worst prank. I was never a bad kid. Just I was termed a troublemaker only because I just wasn't engaged in class. And if I would put you in a seat for 8 hours and you would do nothing, you would just take off your glasses, but you would just do something that people would say, "This guy's making trouble." So in school, it wasn't like crazy things. It was maybe just like, throwing spitballs or just stuff like that. But when I got a little older, like when I was 16, me and my friends, we split a card together. We each paid $100, and we didn't necessarily have like insurance on the card. We had like one of these, 10
It was mixed. It was mixed. Two companies, your cars together.
or whatever. We were able to pay money and get these, these temporary license plates, and Tickets didn't really mean anything because they didn't really go to an address anywhere. I didn't have our information, so we would just like drive these cars around. And every 3 months, we had to buy a new car because they only lasted like 3 months because it's like garbage cars. But yeah, I mean, eventually my father's like, okay, just go to Israel and like maybe some magic will happen over there.
Wow.
One thing I used to do as a kid, I mean, I feel bad now a little bit, but I mean, I realize it's a skill in me, but like I was able to make phony calls.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it, but I was a storyteller and I was able to, call, let's say, a store like, hello, this is Alexi calling. You call car service? Yeah, we're here right now. We have car right now. You call? And people, just like make people crazy like that. But that's before I had Bein Adam L'Chaver skills.
Right.
But as I grew up and I realized what we do to other people makes a big impact. I learned that from Rabbi Yitzchak Berkowitz in Eretz Yisrael.
Yeah.
Bein Adam L'Chaver is like at the top. Like you care about another Jew, it's like Derech Eretz Kadma LaTorah. In order to grow in Torah, you got to care about another Jew. So when I was in Israel, when I was like 19, I made a commitment to myself that that's it. I got to grow. And that's it. I'm only going upwards. And that's really the breakthrough that I had. And that's always like my motto is that I got to keep growing. And this podcast is about joy and joyfulness, Jewish and joyful. And I believe the number one thing about being joyful is look at a 2-year-old. And a 2-year-old is naturally happy. Yes, they may need a sandwich just to keep going, or they need a pickle, or just to keep going. But naturally, they're happy. And I watch my kids when they get up at 6:30. They don't walk downstairs to go play. They literally run down the steps to do what? To play with magnet tiles that they played with 100 times. But today they're going to do something a drop different. They're going to grow one more floor on the magnet tiles. And that's what simcha is, growth. Growth is simcha. And no matter what stage you're at, I think as adults, we get to a certain stage where like, okay, I'm good now. I finished school and now this is me and that's it. But that's depression. Staying the same and not growing is a depressing feeling. We know that simcha comes from tzemach, which means to sprout. When you're constantly sprouting and growing, that's simcha. I always love my 2-year-old when we're by the Shabbos table. So like food is meant to give us energy, right? And then now you could do what you want to do. But I think as adults, we make food into the end of it all. Like you eat food for food. But kids are not like that. And I always love it. We sit down by the Shabbos table and the table is filled with food and the adults just sit down and like, okay, let's become happy now. And my kid, after 2 minutes, he says, I'm ready to play.
Yeah.
Like that's what food is. Give me energy and now I can have fun. Sure.
Rabbi Scheller, so what do you do now?
So now I'm a youth motivational speaker and I speak a lot and the main thing is as I said, I try to grow every day. I try to just double myself. I mean, I meet great people all the time and I constantly learning. My main thing is learning, growing and sharing it with as many kids as possible.
There's a question that's bothering everyone. The famous trademark of yours, one time. Where does it come from? What's the origin of it?
One time. So the origin is a crazy place, but these things you can't really make up because, okay, let me make up an intro. It just happened. I wasn't necessarily looking to teach kids. As I said, on the one hand, I wasn't looking to be a Rebbe. But it was a few years ago, maybe like 7 years ago, that I took a year off just to like figure out where I'm going in life. I was doing kiruv at one point, and I took a year off just to focus on. I took guitar lessons, voice lessons, but I didn't have a job, so I was just tutoring one kid. And it was going very well with that one kid. And I was in his school, and the principal asked me, he said, could you substitute a class? So I said, that's, it's not even the last thing on my list. It's not on my list to substitute a class. But he said, please, we have no one else. So I said, you know what? If I could bring in my guitar, I have a guitar with me. If I could bring in my guitar to the class. He said, you know what? It was never done before, but I have no choice. Just do it.
What grade was this?
This was like fourth grade. So I walked to the class. I left my guitar right outside the classroom. I don't want to walk in with my guitar. And I walk in, and without exaggerating, the kids ripped up pieces of paper and followed me around class and just threw it over. I'm a substitute. Green light. Do what you want. And they were jumping over desks, and I'm like, this is why I didn't want to come. But I just waited there until like the boys just saw I wasn't reacting, and it got a little quieter. And I said, boys, can I take out my guitar? They say, yeah. So I go get my guitar, and it's still a little noisy in the classroom. And I take out my guitar, and I thought to myself, okay, what am I gonna do? And I just one time, and the kids slowly sit down. And I said, whoa, this is powerful. So I just kept on going, and I said, there's a guy, Yaakov. He's walking down the street, and all of a sudden, he sees a guy across the street that's staring at him, and they sit down and they freeze. And I just go on for like 2 hours, and that's when I realized that I have this skill that I can share stories to kids and impart lessons to them. Wow. So that is the origin of one time. And ever since then, I use it wherever I go. And a lot of people know me as one time, and not necessarily as Rabbi Scheller.
There are so many people that want to say Divrei Torah by the Shabbos table with a beautiful story, or they just want to have some good reading material, short and sweet for Shabbos. I want to introduce to you Parsha Knowledge. Parsha Knowledge is a weekly Torah publication with Torah thoughts, stories, and inspiration on weekly Parsha. It's short and sweet, straight to the point, and Baruch Hashem, it's inspiring thousands of people. If you'd like to subscribe, please email parshaknowledge@gmail.com, PARSHA knowledge@gmail.com, or you can visit parshaknowledge.com. Subscribe to the email. You could WhatsApp 646-397-2320. Start getting it for yourself, for your shul, for your family. I'm sure you'll love it. To sponsor an episode, please call 646-397-2320, or you can email us at jewishandjoyful@gmail.com. Looking forward to hearing from you. We're going through very challenging times. What's your way to get through these challenging times, and how do you recommend others to get through these hard times? And be b'simcha.
Wow. Okay, so something that I'm always fascinated by my Rebbe, his name is Rabbi Yitzchak Berkowitz, and that is his ability to always be b'simcha. He's always in a state of happiness. He's not the type to just be down and out and miserable. And it was right at the beginning of October 7th, and I said, okay, I have to see him now. What's he saying about this now? Okay, this is bad. This is bad stuff. So he was giving a Zoom meeting for all the Americans living in the area, like October 10th, like literally right after Sukkot. So I said, okay, I got to be on this Zoom. I got to see what's going on. Zoom meeting starts, and this is Rabbi Berkowitz starts off the meeting. We're in wartime. What a beautiful time in Eretz Yisrael. And I'm thinking, what? He said, the amount of chesed opportunities that are going on now, and the amount that you could be helping other Jews, so many opportunities now, the closeness that people feel with each other now, such a great time right now. And he's going on. And what I realized is that as a gadol, your number one skill is, one of your greatest skills are to hone in on the positive and to just laser focus what's good right now. Mm-hmm. Yes, there's a lot of bad stuff going on, but what's positive? And be an expert at focusing on the positive. And when you could do that, you see positive. Wow. You see joy. Yeah. Listen, you're not naive. I know there's things going on, but Hashem doesn't want me to get down. and I'm gonna laser focus on the positive. I remember when lehavdil, when Barack Obama was president, and they were talking about how 68% of Americans want him out of office, and I'm thinking, well, this guy has so many enemies. Okay, maybe I have two enemies. This guy has millions of people as enemies. Like, how does he wake up in the morning and look in the mirror? And I remember I heard an interview where they asked him, and they said, like, how do you deal with all your haters? I'm sure he gets hate mail all the time. And he had a simple answer. He said, I just don't focus on it.
Wow.
I just totally ignore it, and it's not there. So yes, we're aware of everything that's going on, but be an expert at focusing on what's good that's going on now. And we know that the Achdus in Klal Yisrael right now is at the highest level it was in a long time.
Yeah.
That's positive stuff. That's positive. Thank you, Hamas, for causing that. We wish they didn't have to come that way, but it's a good place we're in right now, and Mitzvah Hashem will continue when the war ends.
Man, yeah. Hopefully be very soon. Mashiach.
All right.
What does Jewish and joyful mean to you?
Wow. Okay. I thought you would have to answer that. Jewish and joyful means to me that really, as a Jew, we have what it takes to be joyful, because I had a Rebbe of mine who would say pretty much that he had a fundraiser that came to a wealthy man came to his house, and he wanted to serve him a drink, and he couldn't find any water in his house because the tap water he couldn't use, and he had no drinks in his house. And he goes to the basement, and the only thing he could find was Diet Coke with a half an inch of dust on top of the cans. But hey, it's a closed can. He wipes it off, pours it in a glass, and he gives it to the wealthy guy. The wealthy guy takes a sip and he spits it out. He said, "What'd you give me?" And my rabbi said, "I give you like brand new soda. Like, what's the problem?" He said, "Taste it." And he tasted it, and it was horrible. And the meeting was over, and he couldn't figure it out. What was wrong with it? It was a brand new can of Coke. And he realized that's the difference between Diet Coke and regular Coke. You see, regular Coke has natural sweeteners and it lasts forever. But Diet Coke has chemicals. It's not natural sweeteners. It has an expiration date of 6 months. And Diet Coke expires after 6 months. And all the pleasures in this world expire. When I was a kid, new sneakers meant everything. A brand new car meant everything, but it doesn't last. Torah is compared to honey, which is a natural sweetener, lasts forever. So Jewish and joyful means to me that we literally have things, the Torah, davening, connection with Hashem, that is real joy. It's not fake. It's not chemicals that expire after a few months. It's something that lasts forever. We have what to jump up and down Simchas Torah with. That's real joy.
So why is Adar specifically so full of happiness and laughter, and some say a lot of jokes then?
But maybe Adar it's a time of Marbin B'Simcha, and Simcha is maybe like even more focus on the positive, and do even more growth in the month of Adar. Like, that's real Simcha, because I heard someone say the difference between Gal and Simcha. Gila comes, right? Gila Rina. Gila comes from Gal, which is a wave. And that's not real joy. Like a wave, it comes and then it goes. But Simcha is content. I feel at peace. That's real Simcha. So I think what Chazal tell us is because we were going to get killed this month, so you rejoice, your physical pleasure. We eat, we drink, and it's physical pleasure to be Simcha.
This year we have 2 months.
Yeah. Well, it really goes into Nisan also.
Before we get back to this episode, I want to tell you something. So many people say, I want an halacha, but it's so hard for me. I want to learn Mishna Berurah, the Chavis Chaim's Mishna Berurah, but how? How do I get to it? It's too hard. I can't understand it. I want to tell you about an incredible project, a revolutionary project that is changing the world. Ohr Olam Mishna Berurah. They have an incredible Hebrew-English translation of the Shulchan Aruch and Mishna Berurah. Go in a local bookstore. They have over 21 volumes out already. For more info, you can call 516-666-7646. Or you could email r-olam-mb@gmail.com. And their website is r-olam.org. What would you say is your favorite joke?
My favorite joke is I share this a lot with the kids, like wherever I go. Right now, this is like my top joke, at least with the kids. That there's this two counselors that they're going for a camp interview, Zevi and Nachum, and the head counselor liked to ask out of the box questions to see how his counselors would think. So he calls in the first counselor, Zevi, and he says, "Okay, Zevi, what's the exact position of the sun?" So Zevi says, I don't know. It's not an exact place. Every day it's in a different spot. He says, okay. Second question, what's the exact deficit of the U.S.? How much money do they owe the governments? He says, I think it's 3 trillion. He says, okay. Third question, there's a famous criminal that escaped Mexico. He's hiding in the U.S. What's his current status? So Zevi says, the president is investigating with a special team of people. He says, excellent. Call in your friend Nachum, but don't tell him any questions because I like to ask the same question to every staff member. He says, okay. So he calls him in and Nachum says, hey, what was the questions? Zevi says, I can't say. Say, come on. I'll give you all my snacks. He can't say. So he says, tell me the answers. He says, oh, you never said I can't say the answers. So he tells him the answer, the first question, second question, third question. So Nachum comes in and he's focusing. Answer number 1, number 2, number 3. And the head counselor looks at his application. He says, whoa. Before we even start the interview, you didn't fill this out. He says, first of all, what's your address? And Nachum says, I got this. It's in a different spot every day. Every day it's in a different location. He says, what does that mean? He says, next question, what's your number? Nachum says, 3 trillion. The head counselor puts down the paper. He says, 1 second, are you out of your mind? He says, the president is currently investigating it with a special team of people. I'll give you one more bonus one. One more bonus one is that this guy, Stephen, loves going to his grandparents' house because his grandfather was a 5-star chef. And whenever he would go, his grandfather would cook him up a nice meal. So he goes to his grandfather for Sunday morning, and his grandfather makes some eggs, some homemade fries, and he's eating from the dishes, and he sees dirt on the dishes. There's hairs on it. He says, Grandpa, were these dishes clean? And his grandfather says, well, as good as detergent can clean them. He says, okay, it looks pretty dirty. He finishes up. He goes to mow his grandfather's lawn, does some other errands around the house. He comes in. His grandfather says it's time for lunch. His grandfather serves him some salmon, some sushi, and he clearly sees eggs on his plate from the morning. And says, Grandpa, were these plates clean? And his grandfather says, I told you, as good as detergent can clean them. And then his grandfather serves him some Boston cream pie in another plate, and there's like sticky stuff on the plate. He says, Grandpa, were these plates clean? And he says, I told you, as good as detergent could clean them. He finishes up in his grandfather's house and he's ready to go. He's trying to get outside, but his grandfather's dog is blocking the door. So he says, Grandpa, I can't get out of here. His grandfather says, 1 second. He runs over to the dog and he says, Detergent, get out of the way. Yeah, well, we got to use jokes and everything else to get us into that state. But bottom line is, real simcha, that's all gila. Real simcha is growth and being laser focused on the positive.
Wow, beautiful. Thank you. Who is the happiest person that you know?
Wow. I would say Rabbi Berkowitz. Yeah, it's just always, I remember there were times like when I was in the kollel and I was like down and out, and like Shabbos morning, I was just like upset about something, and I just like see him talk, and he's like, I'm like, wow, like he's just always happy, and I realize that's what it is. It's a skill, it's a muscle that you're able to build, that I just focus on the positive, because there's always going to be positive things in your life.
Right.
And it's a skill being able to just boom, what's positive. We know people that have a skill like what's wrong, boom, that's wrong. Right there is wrong. Right there. A gadol is what's right. Right there. That's right. That's right.
We just sing a quick Purim song. Thank you so much for coming.
Wow, my pleasure. Thank you.
Hope you all enjoyed this week's episode, the Purim episode with Rabbi Eli Scheller. Be sure to stay tuned for more incredible guests and content coming soon. Follow and subscribe. Please share this episode with friends and family who will enjoy it. Get them in more in other spirit as well. And you have to remember to be Jewish and joyful. Make sure to check out the incredible Parsha sheet, Parsha Knowledge. You can email parshaknowledge@gmail.com. You can visit the website, parshaknowledge.com. Subscribe. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Make sure to check out Ohr Olam Mishna Berurah, the Hebrew-English Mishna Berurah. That can change your way of learning. It's good for people of all learning levels, all backgrounds, so be sure to check it out. You can visit the website, or-olam.org. You could go in a local bookstore. For more information, please see the show notes. So have a Freilich Purim. And remember, you always have to be happy, but in Adar we have to be even more happy. So by us being Jewish and being joyful, may you merit to see the ultimate redemption, the ultimate simcha, the ultimate joy in our days. Mashiach, Meher V'Minu, Amen. Thank you for listening. Have a great Purim.
Jewish and joyful, Jewish and joyful. Even when you pop a string, you still gotta do your thing, yeah.
Jewish.